Hey there, Gabriel from Nerd Graphics here. Let's talk tech experience. Now, Google released the Google Pixel 6 in 2021, and this was one of the most anticipated phones for Google in a long time. The reason for that is because this is the first phone that has their own chip inside of the phone, as well as obviously running all of Android, everything within this single phone. Now, Google went ahead and hyped this phone up by releasing a lot of teaser trailers and teaser photos of what the phone was going to be ever since a few months before the release date in October of 2021. Now, I personally don't even think this was a good idea because, kind of like the saying goes, that with great power comes great responsibility. With a lot of leaks and with a lot of hype, there's a lot of expectations that a lot of people are having for the phone. And unfortunately, Google didn't really live up to some of those expectations, and a lot of them came in the form of bugs. Within a couple of months of the phone releasing, there was a lot of bugs being reported, whether it was a fingerprint sensor not working, the camera wasn't working right, the notification center, and it was causing so much trouble for Google and for people's phones that they had to factory reset their phones in order to get some of these features working again. Now, I bought my Pixel 6 about a month ago, and I went into it knowing that there's a possibility that I was going to get a crappy, buggy phone. But honestly, to my surprise, I have not experienced any bugs, and all of the features are working great. Now, that isn't to say that my experience has been perfect with the Pixel 6. There were a couple things that made me want to return it within the first week. I've obviously kept it. So let's go ahead and talk about the reasons I have decided to keep it rather than returning it for those other failures or low level points of this phone. The first main attribute of this phone that makes it appealing to me and to a lot of people is the design. I honestly really like now that Google went away from having that square camera bump in the back. It's kind of like they were copying Apple for a couple years, and now they finally decided to go in their own direction, not only with the chip, but also with the design of this phone. Now, honestly, at first, I was a little skeptical about the design. I was like, it looks a little different. It looks like any other Android phone out there. But after using it for about a month, I think this is a great design change for this phone. Not only does it give it a Google staple look, but it also makes it look different from any of the other phones out there. It's kind of difficult to see now with a lot of the phones. A lot of them have that square camera bump in the back, and a lot of them have the same screen, especially with Android phones. A lot of them have that hole punch display. So really the only thing that makes them look different is the way the back is made, the way the camera looks, the camera bump, and how many cameras it has. The phone is also designed in a way that makes it feel slimmer than my iPhone, but I honestly think that's just because it's a little bit taller than that, meaning the aspect ratio is a little bit different than my iPhone. So it's really great for media consumption as long as the video that you're watching has this aspect ratio, which unfortunately not many do. So whenever you want to see something in full screen, say in YouTube, you're going to have to zoom in, and that means you're going to chop some heads off and possibly be missing part of the video. The hole punch display also makes the display feel a little bit larger than the iPhones because obviously the iPhone still has that notch display, but honestly, I don't think it really brings any more usability to the screen, and I would rather have that notch if we could get Face Unlock on the Pixel rather than just having the fingerprint sensor. Now, the display is also a great attribute of this phone. Obviously, it's a Google screen, so it's really nice and vibrant. The colors are very highly saturated, which is great for when you're watching media. And it's also an OLED display, so some of those blacks will be really dark, as well as having those colorful, vibrant pictures show up amazingly. The tall display does help with any of the apps that are in portrait mode though. You don't have to chop any heads off, and you're allowed to see a little bit more content than say something like an iPhone with a regular 16:9 aspect ratio. The colors on this are also very vibrant, and it is an OLED display, which means that you also can turn on and off some of the pixels, or I guess the phone does that for you. But this also means that you have always on display, which is really great for seeing some of the notifications, or at least a little symbol, as well as the time, the date, the weather, and even your next alarm. Now, this display also includes a fingerprint sensor underneath the display, which is very useful for unlocking the phone when you aren't looking at it. Now, if you have always on display on, then you are still able to use the fingerprint sensor just by placing your finger right on that place where it tells you to. But if you don't have it on, then you're going to have to turn on the screen to let your phone know that you're going to unlock it. Unfortunately, the fingerprint sensor isn't as secure, not as secure as reliable when you have dirty fingers or when you have some dust in them. So sometimes it will be a little bit difficult. This is my first in-screen fingerprint reader that I've used. There are some reports that it's slower than other ones, but honestly, when it's working, it works fine and it works fast enough for my liking. The display can also go up to 90 Hertz refresh rate, but honestly, I don't really think that's really that useful for people that don't do a lot of gaming on their phones. If you're just scrolling through social media, going through Reddit or going through Instagram, that refresh rate really won't be making much of a difference. The Google Pixel 6 also comes with Android 12 straight out of the box, and I really like what Google is doing with some of these Android updates, making it more catered to the person with something like making the icons and making all of the widgets catered to depending on the background. It really just takes what the major color is in the background and kind of gives it a tint or a different color saturation of it to make all the icons match that background color. I personally like to customize my phone a little more than that, so I do use Nova Launcher as my main launcher, and I also use KWidget app so I can add any extra widgets I want or make any widgets myself, which honestly I don't really make them myself. There's apps for that. You can buy them. You can buy other people who have designed them. I really like this shadow widget one, so it creates a little bit of a shadow to any of the widgets you make, and also this Ucon's icon pack, which kind of brings that whole U experience from the Android 12 to your whole icon pack. I do like that you are able to customize this with more ease than you would on, say, an iPhone. iPhone with the new iOS does allow you to customize a little more, add a little bit more widgets, but it's a little bit more difficult and there's a little more hoops to jump through rather than just simply getting an app, downloading an icon pack, and then just applying it to all of your apps. Unfortunately, something that Android 12 doesn't do that great is the control center. First of all, I don't like that you have to scroll down twice so that you can get down to all of your quick settings. I know that you can technically use 2 fingers to scroll down and get to it quicker, but that's a little more difficult than just swiping with your thumb down. So you do have to do it twice. And not only that, but there's this one thing that keeps bothering me is that to turn off the Wi-Fi, you have to first click on whatever network thing it is and then turn off the Wi-Fi. I really like from iOS that in the control center, you have little buttons to turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off the cellular data, and then everything else. This brings me to some of the issues that I've had with this phone that have made me want to return it within the first week. And now do keep in mind that some of these issues apply only to the Pixel 6 and not to all of the Android phones. For example, the battery life on this phone honestly is just horrible, especially coming from something like the 13 Pro that works really great, and at the end of the night I usually have about 40 to 50% on the 13 Pro. On the Pixel 6, ever since the first week, in the night I end with anywhere 10 to 16%, and then some nights I actually have to recharge it in order for me to even make it through the night. Now this is through light usage. I don't really use it a lot. I use it, like I said, just as much as the 13 Pro, but at the same time the 13 Pro is a phone that costs almost twice as much as the Pixel, but still, even for a $600 phone, I feel like we should be getting a little bit more battery life than what I am getting. Now another issue that I have with this phone that actually directly correlates with the battery life is that the brightness of it is actually really bad. Most of the time I find myself using it between 70 to 100% brightness, which obviously is going to bring down that battery life, but at the same time it's not bright enough for me to use it outdoors. Anytime I go outside, if I'm at 50% or less, it's getting really difficult to see. So that means that anybody who wants to get this phone but you like using a privacy screen protector, that's probably not going to be helpful, because even at max brightness with a privacy screen protector, you aren't going to be able to see it outdoors. Like I mentioned before, I have had a couple of issues with the fingerprint sensor. When I have my finger, it has a little bit of dust or a little bit of dirt from just normal work hours. I can't unlock this phone whatsoever. There's also been times where I've tried to click it and it just lights up but doesn't register my finger at all. Even if I just barely wash my hands, I haven't been working at all, and it doesn't register the finger. When it was within the first week, I thought maybe I'm having that issue that's going to make me factory reset my whole phone. But after a while, I started noticing that it just does that randomly, and then if you just give it a second, it starts working up again. And the last thing that I wasn't a fan of was that there is no first party watch for the Google Pixel 6. Anything you get is going to be third party. I really like using my Apple Watch with my iPhone, so when I was switching over to the Google Pixel 6, I was searching for the best watch to use. And if you really want one as well, I highly recommend you get the Galaxy Watch 4. It works pretty well with the Google Pixel 6, especially with that whole collaboration thing going on between Google and Samsung. It's kind of has a little bit of the features of Wear OS, and then at the same time it has a Tizen skin on it, so it works well for the most part. At least it works really well for what I use it for, but there's also still very limited app support on that watch. Overall, this isn't a perfect phone, but if you like that stock Android experience and you want that Google camera, this is your best option that's out right now. At $600, you honestly can't beat the experience and what kind of phone you're getting. Just always remember to bring your battery pack wherever you go. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you for sticking around until the end of this video. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed the content and subscribe to not miss any of my future uploads, and I'll catch you on the next one.